Okay, so I'm going to talk about my 1993 Dodge W350. I don't know how focused this thing is here, so I'll try to get as many views as I can. The wide angle or whatever, this GoPro here. So when I got it, it was completely stock. I bought it with 145,000 miles on it. I'm at 210 right now. I've got about 200 miles on the new motor that I put in it. When I first got it, my plan was to run 38-inch tires on it, and that's what's on it now. As you can see, I got quite a bit of clearance there, and they don't really rub ever, except when I turn full lock. They kind of hit the leaf springs in the front. But so I did that, and I got a 2.5-inch spacer in the middle, and then a 2-inch spacer on the inside, down in between the wheel and the axle. You can see here I got just about a perfect amount of width there between the tires. So what I did, I went through and I got the tires put on the truck. On the fronts, I stretched the front fender 6 inches. I took 6 inches out of the middle, and I scooted this panel back, scooted this panel forward, re-welded it, and put it all back into place. Eventually I'll get around to putting the Scorpion liner on the whole truck. I'm going to do a red Scorpion liner on the whole truck, and I'll probably do the grill black and keep the mirrors and the wheels chrome. I'm going to get some wheel simulators to put on the outside. That's about all I'll have chrome. Maybe the door handles also. I don't want to mess with any of that. So after putting about 30,000 miles on the 12 valve that came with the truck, I went through about 5 turbochargers in a very short period of time, about 3 months, and some of those were rebuilt, some of them were brand new, and for the life of me I tried everything I could to try to get the turbos to last. I replaced oil regularly. I thought it was an air filter, thought it was restriction in the oil line, return line, all that stuff. Replaced everything that I could think of. Eventually I just said screw it. I went to Kansas City last Thanksgiving, and on my way back I just decided I was going to go ahead and build the motor from scratch. So what I did was I built a 24 valve, came out of a 2001 Cummins, so I put a 24 valve in it, and I'm running a VE injection pump. We'll get to the motor here in a second, but anyways, I put LEDs on the whole truck. I got LEDs in the cab lights, I got LEDs on the fenders, everything but the tailgate, which I'm going to replace the tailgate soon. I got LED bulbs in the tail housings. All the new housings, all the housings I should say, are all new. Cab light housings are new. New turn signals in the front, and I'm running projector headlights, HIDs. I'll probably upgrade my HIDs in the future. I want to probably run LED with a dual high beam, low beam. I just don't like that I have a halogen high beam. Since the halogen bulb sits off center, you get a funky projection out of it, so it's kind of pointless to even run the high beams. I got a new grill on it. It's a Rock Auto grill, which it's not a bad grill, and the inserts are nice, but it's not as durable as the stock grill would have been. If you could still find one, I would suggest doing that before going to Rock Auto. Mine was cracked in like 4 or 5 spots across here, and I really didn't like it. But this grill, the screws that hold the grill down up on top of the front clip, they're broken. See here, this is wiggling just because the plastic broke. Just kind of either bad plastic or bad molding. But so yeah, all that's new. I've got new mirrors, side mirrors I'm going to put on as soon as I get the truck painted. New windshield's going to go in at the same time also, so I can just kind of take my weather stripping out and spray all around that, and then just replace the window. So that's that. I'm going to pop the hood. We're going to look at the motor. Okay, so it's my 24 valve. I built this motor from the ground up, from scratch. The head didn't come with this motor, and bought them from two different individuals on my way back from Kansas City last year. The block was pretty rusted, and I got it for a great deal, so I ended up just buying the block and I had it machined, but the cylinders were rusted out and the outside was pretty rusted just from sitting outside. The journals and everything like that were not, because it had a crankshaft in it and it was oil in there, never got water in it to rust. But anyways, so what I did with the block, I took it to the machine shop, had them take 40 thousandths off. That was, my plan was to run 20 thousandths over standard bore, but it didn't clean up, so I had to go to 40 thousandths, and I bought pistons to match. And then they decked the head, get the head on the block flat, and once I did that, I had did all the machining work on the head myself. I took the intake runner, machined that off. There's the cast runner that was cast into the head. I made my own from billet 6061, had that machined up, and it took me quite a while because I had to draw it. I had to get the whole motor mocked together. Then I had to go and figure out what my dimensions were, and everything clears. It just barely clears my injection pump, and I'm running just about stock timing right now. But if I need to run any more, I got to go in here and I got to trim this idle stop back so that I get some clearance from the intake runner if I want to advance my timing at all. But I'm running a second gen 24 valve fuel filter, and it's mocked up on the side of it there, and it actually went in pretty good, so it fits. I might have to take my throttle cables off just to change my filter, but that's not a big deal at all. I'm running, I don't know if you can see it, I'll try to get down in there. I don't know how this will come out, but I'm running a second gen lift pump with a lowered pressure output on it. So run the piston pump up to the injection pump. I got it teed off, and I'm coming over here to this is a lift pump pressure. I put it on the upstream side of the filter so I could see if my filter is ever slowing down. Going right into the injection pump. And what I did was I made my own delivery valve holders, and I just machined those right out of the I think it was a 14 M14 by 1.5 thread pitch, I believe is what it is. I just bought some 4-inch bolts, grade 8 bolts, and machined them down, put a hex, 10mm hex on them so I could get a wrench on them, tighten them down, machine the insides of them out. Actually came out really well, and they're not leaking at all. I don't see any ill effects from doing it that way. I'm using the stock 24 valve injection lines. Yeah, not much to say about those, but everything else is 24 valve. The block, the head, cam is actually 12 valve. Cam and the injection pump are the only things that belong to this truck, besides the power steering, but I wouldn't consider that part of the motor. Anyway, so I've got dual 110-pound valve springs in there. I like the dual valve springs better, preferably, because if one ever breaks, I'm not going to drop a valve. So that's kind of my theory behind those. But so that being said, I've got a 6.7 liter crankshaft in it, and to get the crankshaft to fit, it was basically a drop-in. I didn't have to modify the block or the crankshaft at all for that. So I did have to clearance the pistons, get the pistons cleared down. So I'm running a 20.5 to 1 compression ratio on this motor, and it starts flawlessly. I mean, with the flick of a switch, it just starts right up. And even when it's getting kind of cold out, I tried it one time. I didn't even have to warm up my grid heater when it got down to about 25 degrees. My grid heater didn't even kick on. I just flicked the switch and it started right up without even any white smoke. So that high compression's getting a little bit of a hotter charge in there. And I'm running a HE351VE turbocharger. It's cooled from coolant from the head. Got coolant coming in and then the coolant going down into down here. I don't know if you can see that, but going into the water pump. Then brand new oil lines coming in. I got an oil line on the bottom that is actually leaking, so I'm gonna order one of those perforated or bendable ones down there and put that on the bottom. And probably time. I bought this as a used turbo, and the guy said it was in good condition, and I didn't even think twice. I just put it in. So I checked shaft play. Shaft play is fine, but it leaks out of the compressor housing, and it's leaking pretty slow. So, but enough to I got to get it rebuilt. But I bought a standalone controller for this turbocharger, and this standalone controller is basically a plug-and-play system. Hook up your positive, your negative, everything like that, and that's it. So you have your drive pressure, your maximum pressure based on your pressure switch. This guy that makes these, his name is Steve Dolan, I believe, and sells them to the public, whoever's willing to buy one. And you just put it in with a HE351VE. I think he's even got it to work on the Garrett turbochargers now also. The exhaust brake function on this thing is basically my tipping point of why I went with this turbocharger. I built a high compression motor out of intent. I wanted low end torque. I'm not a street racer or anything like that, so I want the low end torque for pulling and also for my 38-inch tires, and the exhaust brake. So with the turbocharger and the controller, I'm still at about half of what I would pay for an exhaust brake setup. I basically could have brought an exhaust brake without an air compressor, the way I look at it. So anyways, that's the drive pressure, max pressure. That's based off of 100% and I think 40% of the 50-pound pressure sensor values. And then the brake, kind of scratch that out. Doesn't really mean brake. He had some old housings that he did a software update on, and this is basically the actuation. I believe it's how fast that vane's actually open from 0 to full boost, whatever you're running. From about 40% to I can't quite think it off the top of my head, but from about 40 to 50, that's, I really get no effect from there, but I really start seeing drastically less throttle response and horsepower when I'm below about 40. So I just kind of leave it right in here, no big deal in here. Actually fit really nice right where my ashtray used to sit, and it fits almost dimensionally exact. And the stock screws that used to screw to the side of this, it's actually what I used to mount that on there, so it literally just fell in there. If I ever decide I want to use my ashtray, and put my ashtray back in and figure out where I'm going to put this. But it's got a light up here that shines down across my knobs, so I can see my knobs in the dark. So that's pretty cool. Actually worked out really well. I did white face gauges on all the gauges and the vent control up here. So I actually like the way it looks. It's a lot easier to see at night. I mean, it's just like night and day, pun intended. So the glow shift gauges that I put in, I've only had them in for about 24 hours, and I like the gauges, I like their function, but I've heard mixed reviews about them, so we're gonna put them to the test and see how long they last. Yeah, they're 7-color display change. They're not very bright which is good because I do a lot of hunting, and I don't like bright gauges when I'm driving around at night and stuff like that. So anyways, the pillar is also a glow shift pillar. It's a nice pillar. It's designed to go over the stock A-pillar trim, but I decided not to do that. What I did was I notched it, and you can kind of see what I did here. I notched it for the overhead trim piece, and just screwed it right in place there. It lines up pretty good. It's not an exact fit. I guess I could do a little bit more trimming on it, but I'm not really worried about it. It looks good, and it's in place, and it holds my gauges, and it, you know, it's not too redneck at all. So I guess at this point, oh, when I bought the truck, yeah, I had a gear vendor's overdrive unit on it, and I took it off because the only reason I was using it was for kind of racing it, if you will. I'd be in third gear, high RPMs, and I'd switch it, and it would just lock and shift into overdrive, and that was great because I'd get about 20 more miles an hour out of third gear, downshift, and then go into fourth, and you know, do the same thing in fourth gear. So it was pretty cool just to have like an automatic 2-speed third and fourth gear. I mean, I could have done it in any gear, but it was kind of pointless in lower gears. The gear vendors was pretty big, and it leaked a lot, so I got rid of it, and I put on a stock tail housing to the MP205, and I built my own drive shaft. As you can see, I ordered the ends from Spicer and put Spicer ends on, welded them on, so on and so forth. So I took that out, and I got a fair value out of it, so it kind of paid for the motor build that I was working on. I guess I'll go ahead and start it now. We can hear how it's running. Oh, and I don't know if you saw that, but these gauges are pretty cool. They do a sweep when you first turn them on. I don't know if it's all for show. I guess it's just kind of a demonstration to show you that the needles actually will do a full sweep with the right input values. So they're gonna sweep again. Boost doesn't sweep. That's kind of what I don't like about this A-pillar, is this, none of these are at the right angle to where I can see the boost, you know, from 0 to about 20 from back here. You know, I can only see about 25, 30 and up. But the other ones here, I can see where my fuel pressure's at. I'm running about 11.5 pounds of pressure at idle, and it's idling high because I got the fuel screw in all the way, and I can't get any more idle down out of it. So I'll figure that out later. So let's talk about the controller here a little bit. You can see I've got my drive pressure turned all the way up, so that means that I'm going to build boost easy, but I have a more restricted exhaust housing, if you will. So I'll build this up to just where I start to get a little bit of boost out of it. You see the boost is going up. I'm probably at about 5 pounds there. And I'm just going to open the vanes on the turbo. That's full open. I just dropped my boost. I'll open it back up, build my boost right back up. So it's a really neat function about this thing. Really like it, but I noticed that more open I am on my vanes, the hotter my EGTs are. So I just kind of got to find a balancing point when I'm going cross country or something like that. But anyways, for the exhaust brake, I ran the exhaust brake switch right to the throttle lever on the idle side. So when I let off the throttle, it pushes the normally open switch to engage the exhaust brake. The motor's still warm, still cold. Basically all I did was I pulled it back here to my pasture so I can get away from some of the road noise. I don't know how well you can hear me talking over the motor, but it's pretty loud and it's idling just a little bit high. I don't have a tachometer, but I'm guessing it's probably right around 1,000 RPMs is where it's idling. Last thing I got to do is I need to make a bracket or get a second gen manifold on here, hold my dipstick in place, because I've got a second gen dipstick and dipstick tube on here that I need to bring down and get this secured. I put a diamond eye 4-inch exhaust on it with a muffler. It actually went on very, very nice, and basically it only took me about an hour to put on once I had the other exhaust off. Fits real nice through here, doesn't touch anywhere. I kind of had to do some mocking up with my brackets here to hold the exhaust off to one side so it doesn't touch up by my transfer case. There's my muffler, my hangers over the axle. Then out here, I'll go ahead and run my exhaust brake for you so you can hear how that sounds out the exhaust and right up front. So my switch seems like it's not holding up very well. It's kind of intermittent and kicking the exhaust brake on and off. But let me go see if I can adjust that real quick. You can hear it pulsing on the motor. Actually, the wires aren't soldered on, so they're kind of just vibrating. That's the problem. A little hazy. It sounds pretty good though. Sounds like a jet engine, I'd say. From in the cab. Big difference, and it's got extremely awesome braking power, really awesome. I mean, it just, not like a pack brake that my buddy used to have. I mean, this thing stocks. So we'll go for a drive. I'll keep my exhaust brake off for now, kind of keep these set where I like them, and we'll go from there. I don't know if I'll try to get a whole bunch of gauges, you know, in this video, but I'll try to demonstrate it out here, just try to show you the versatility of the turbo controller and kind of the low end torques that this high compression 24 valve has. So I've also got 100 horsepower injector nozzles on these. I'm running the, I just dropped the clutch in second gear, 38-inch tires. I didn't even think about it. So I'm running the VP 44 pop pressure on these injectors. I might experiment down the road and get the pop pressure lowered on these and see if that makes any difference, but so far I've got my fuel pump turned up all the way. I'm not running, I'm just above stock timing because I'm using the original 12 valve timing cover on this thing. So the injection pump also the timing mark should line up where stock was, and I'm just slightly advanced to that. And the only thing is that my truck hazes. It hazes driving down the road. As you can kind of see, it's kind of hazy, and I'm not even on it. I'm just cruising at 40 miles an hour. But it doesn't soot black smoke like the original 12 valve did. I'm guessing that has to do with the higher compressor getting a more efficient burn out of it under full throttle and full load. But if I punch the gas here, my motor's well enough warmed up that I don't, still a new motor, so I don't like to push it that hard. Like I said, I've only got about 200 miles on this thing now, so I mean it's clear pretty quick there. It smokes right off the bat, but it's instant clear. I've got a calibrated speedometer, so my speedometer is accurate. Running a Dakota Digital speed calibrator. Really cool tool. You can adjust the speed up and down however you want it, whatever gears, whatever timing your tires are at and everything like that. So it runs really well. I'll see if I can get third gear pull here on my boost gauge. Boost drops down a little higher RPMs. Third gear I can get about 35 pounds out of it. Fourth gear I can get a little bit higher, running about 38 pounds, about 1300 exhaust gas degrees. Lift pump never drops down below about 7 under full throttle or anything like that. Roll up my windows here so I can talk to you. I hope this thing's still filming. Yeah, it's still filming. So, I mean, any hill I climb, this truck it climbs right up in 5th gear and accelerates. It's so far beyond stock. It's no race truck, don't get me wrong, but the torque is just phenomenal. I mean, it's no speed demon at all, but I can just feel the torque. It's kind of weird too. I get more throttle response and faster acceleration under about 3/4 throttle than I do at full throttle. So I don't know if anybody has any light to shed on that. Let me know. Uphill, 4th gear, about 38 pounds boost. So that's that. I'm gonna go ahead and open the turbo up. I'm gonna open the turbine housing up a little bit, and you'll see this is another hill right here in front of me, so you can see just how much effect that has on boost and throttle response. I'm at full throttle, 30 pounds right there. That's it. And then I can also lower my max boost on here. So I'm going to close the turbine, lower my max boost, push it. Well, I'm still right up there. Now I'm going to slow down the actuation, or speed it up I should say. Alright, so that's all the way open. 3rd gear, 4th gear. I mean, it's building, it only built about 20 pounds right now with everything all the way open on this turbo. gear. So it's just incredible how awesome this exhaust brake is, though. Exhaust brake's off because I'm accelerating. And when I'm running the exhaust brake and I'm shifting, I basically don't let the throttle off all the way when I push in the clutch. So I don't kick on the exhaust brake. If not, it kind of puts you at a halt real quick, pretty jerky. But if I bring up the speed here, activate the exhaust brake. That's exhaust brakes right there. Now I'm applying the brakes. It just does fantastic. Oh, I've got a south bend clutch in here. I don't remember the part number on it, but it's I was kind of disappointed because the stock clutch, the SAC stock clutch for this truck, has so much more surface area than the south bend clutch does. But I guess the south bend's got a higher spring pressure on the pressure plate there, and it gives it a little bit more traction, I guess, against the flywheel. But anyways, I believe it's a 400 horsepower or 500 horsepower south bend clutch. Another kind of funny story. I was driving the truck. I was about 50 miles into my first test drive, and I was climbing up Interstate 70, and the truck shut down on me. And I was cruising. I was going about 80 miles an hour in fifth gear, about half throttle, and the truck just died. Just completely, motor just turned off. So what I did, I was able to pull off the road, and I had my brother bring me my tools. I was about 15 miles from home, and the only thing I could think it could be was the fuel shutdown solenoid. So on the side of the road, I pulled the fuel shutdown solenoid out and took the plunger out, stuck the fuel shutdown solenoid back in. The truck started right up. Actually, here's the shutdown plunger. It's not damaged at all. The rubber's all still intact, so I didn't have any rubber in there. But the only thing I can think of is there was some metal shavings on here, maybe that either froze the plunger or it got excuse me, it got some fuel up in there and shorted out the coil or something. Wasn't pulling the plunger up to allow the truck to start. So as you can see, when I turn it off, the truck doesn't turn off. So I'm just using fourth gear, let out, kill the motor. The injection pump does have a kill switch on it. Basically relieves the fuel pressure on the plunger inside of the rotor, and you can kill it that way. But if I ever get ambitious, I might hook a kill cable up to it, or if my clutch ever slips, something like that. But we'll see. Anyways, I'm very happy with the project. I don't know what my fuel mileage is coming in at yet, because I'm not really driving it all the time, and fuel gauge doesn't work, so I got to run it up and top it off and that type of thing to calculate my mileage. Yeah, it's a work in progress. I hope to get it painted probably by next spring. By paint, I mean that Scorpion liner.